What is going on, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can see, it's actually quite the nice day right now. A little bit cold, but I'll take sunny and cold versus rainy and cold any day. And then over here, what's happening? What's happening over here?
I'm replacing my starter.
So old starter coming out, the new starters in here, same one that I have for my V5 in there. And people want to know, are we bumping yet?
No,
we're not bumping yet.
No, I
so I was told, that
she
she was an expert sound engineer.
I never said that.
And there's no bumping happening.
I never said I was an expert.
There might be a problem with the actual amps. We're trying to get another one just to test and see, but there's no bumping. People are sad. I'm sad. I wanted to hear bumping. Have this massive 15 and there's no bumping happening. So the plan for today is to try and get the remaining pieces that I have right now onto the VR5. We have the fuel rail, some pieces for the intake manifold and that kind of stuff. This is the power steering reservoir. That'll go in the corner over there. That needs to get mounted up today as well. I went through and put in a layer of clear on this, and it is so shiny now. Like, it came out so good. And I got pictures today. I won't show you just yet, but I should have the engine cover and the inner piece maybe this week. It looks incredible, so hopefully this week I can get it. He's letting the clear on it dry right now, so probably later this week, if you can ship it out, we'll have it. And it's gonna look, just wait. It's gonna look, I've been hyping it up, I know, but like, it looks insane. Now, last video I had mentioned I want to replace all the factory VR5 hoses here with the nice silicone ones. Now, someone left me a link on the last video to Carlicious, and Carlicious actually sells a kit for the VR5 full silicone hoses, but it's a little bit expensive. It's right here, they have it in stock, but it's 193 euro, which is a bit expensive. Now, when I put this silicone hoses on the VR6 in my car, I bought an eBay silicone hose kit for like $70, I want to say, and it worked perfectly. The silicone ones on eBay are the exact same as like the high dollar ones you can get, but I can't find that kit anymore. Also, it's for a 12 valve, so it's a little bit different than what this is. Now, the eBay kits for the 24 valve VR6 or the VR5 that I can find are still like $250. They're super expensive, so I want them. These ones aren't in bad shape, but I do know these hoses can go out at any given moment, and having a leak like that is super annoying to change out. So I don't know, I might buy them, we'll see. I want them, but they're very pricey. But just know, you can find the eBay version for cheaper. It's exactly the same thing. So I'm gonna keep looking a little bit before I spend the big money, but hopefully we can get it taken care of. So again, this is the kit here from Carlicious, so exactly for the VR5, but it's 193 euro. It's in stock, but it's a bit pricey. You can see the red, they have the black, the blue, a bunch of different colors. And then on eBay, so these ones here are for the 24 valve VR6, but they're $260. Very pricey, which I'm pretty sure should fit this engine almost the exact same. Then also I did find the, this is the one here I think I bought for my VR6. It's like a knockoff brand, but it was only like 70-80 bucks. And it's all you need. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's exactly what I have in my car, but it works exactly the same. So I can find a kit like this for super cheap for the 24 valve, that would be ideal, because $260 for some hoses is just a little bit expensive. Now, I don't know the exact process of making silicone hoses. Maybe it is a very costly process to do and they're just to make their money back. I don't know, but it just seems a little bit expensive. All right, so first up for today, I want to get the injectors back into the fuel rail and get this mounted up. And this is one of my favorite pieces. It just looks incredible. It's so shiny and I love it. Now, this piece over here also goes with the fuel rail and has a little, this one on the bottom that branches off, but I think I'm gonna delete this entire piece because one, it didn't come out the greatest, and two, I don't need this bottom one anymore. So I think I'm gonna delete this piece and just have the hoses, the fuel lines go from these two right to those ones over there, and I really don't need this for any reason, so this can probably just go away. I feel the need to bother my wife Hey,
Yeah.
we bumping yet?
I'm not even working on a freaking amp.
All right, so right now I'm putting the injectors back into the fuel rail. I like to put a little bit of silicone grease around the O-ring that's going to the fuel rail just to make sure it slides in properly. Same with like the coolant flange and stuff. You want to make sure these O-rings are going in nicely and not binding up or coming off, because then you'll have leaks and that's no fun. So nice, just a little bit, it slides in nicely, and bam, just that. Very easy to do. Yo, I gotta say, the fuel rail is definitely one of my favorite pieces on the entire engine. Now sadly though, I have to pull it back out because I forgot to put this piece that mounts up behind here, which I can't put that top bolt in. So I have to pull this back off. I need to paint this, I need to paint this one, and also paint the fuel pressure regulator, because that's gonna look ugly inside there. We can't have that. So this will be gloss black, like how these are over here, and a nice little touch for that. But right now it's looking gross, so we can't be having that. That's better. Couple coats of black later, and these pieces are now up to standard to go in the VR5. Can't have ugly, crusty pieces. Not today. All right, so fuel rail is back out and sitting down there. While these pieces are drying, they're just about done. I'm gonna get these pieces over here assembled back on the intake manifold. As much as I wanted to delete this thing, because it's kind of ugly and kind of just sits off to the side like this, I was advised that was a bad idea, so I'll put it back. All right, intake manifold is almost all back together. These end caps in the wrinkle black look really good. New gasket down there, so this is almost done. I just need to put the throttle body back on, which I probably need to paint as well. Forgot about that. Overall, this is such a beautiful piece. All right, so at this point, these should be dry, so those can go back on, then fuel rail back on, then we'll do the coil packs through here. We'll tighten down our valve cover. This will all be done, and intake manifold can go back on, and we're just about there. I'll go through and put the cam sensors, the crank sensor, and a few more, but we're just about there. Like I said, waiting on the clutch to show up, need a transmission, and then whenever I get the wire harness back from Eurocraft, and then we're home stretch, kind of. Like I said, there's no like rush to this. I don't know how soon it'll be done, but we are making tremendous amounts of progress, which is awesome. Rear lift point check, front lift point check, looking much better. No crusty pieces allowed. All right, we got the rail and the regulator back in. Nice little touch with the gloss black. I seem to have misplaced a little clip that goes in to hold this down, so I need to find one of those. But now moving on to the top, we're gonna do a little layer of black silicone on the bottom side of the valve cover, and then torque that down, and then we can slap in the coil packs. All right, so as you can see, I've done a nice light layer of black silicone around the entire top section of the head here, just to help the bottom section of the valve cover gasket seal to the head a bit better. So now with the actual valve cover back on, all we need to do, torque all these down to spec, and this section is done. Easy money, boys. Valve cover's on, torque to spec, and good to go. I still can't get over how nice all the OEM hardware looks. Such an awesome touch. So now we can go through and put in our fancy smancy hella coil packs. All fancy. These are the exact same ones as the VR6. And actually I can show you. The ones that came out of the engine are these ones right here. And they all say VR6. Sorry, it's blinding. Right. Stop with the glare. There it is. Boom. VR6. So exact same coil packs as a 24 valve. Same thing. You go in just like this. Just set them in. Slide them down gently. Pop them into place. And you're all set. Bam. And bam. Look at that. I think one of the best parts about working on like a project is sitting back and kind of just looking at what you've done. It's just so fun just to take it all in. And now, as much as I love the black and silver vibe right now, and I do love this look right now, but we had to add some color now. All right, so tape down here must get removed. I'm gonna go through and sand this down real quick so it's clean. I believe all of these, not this one, but these ones should all be the hardware to mount that up, and then we're good to go. All right, so all of this is nice and clean. The intake manifold takes 8 bolts to mount up, and I happen to have 8 bolts. So, I have everything ready to go. Ooh, I can't wait to see this piece on officially. Okay, well, slight issue. Well, I'll show you first. It looks absolutely insane, but I remembered why when pulling the engine out of the Golf in the beginning, I pulled the accessory bracket off first and then the intake manifold, because if this accessory bracket is on, the intake manifold hits this bracket and doesn't go down far enough to actually mount up, which I think is the stupidest thing you could ever possibly do. So if you ever want to pull this back off later on, you have to remove the bracket because you can't do it. You simply cannot do it. Makes no sense. I don't know who designed it like that, but you're dumb. So I wish I had the tools. I would grind it down, but I can't fit it. So I have to pull these 3 off, pull the bracket out, mount this, and put this back on. Dumb design, very dumb design. I don't know who would do it that way. You can kind of see, right there, it's sitting flat on the bracket. There's no way to get it far enough down. So yeah, it looks beautiful, really does. Definitely a beautiful touch, but this is stupid. Very, very stupid. So with the manifold now off, you can see what I'm talking about is hitting right here and right here. There's just not enough room to go down to match up to this little dowel piece and get the bolts in. You just simply can't do it. The ideal thing to do would be to cut this out so there's room to go down, but then even then, if you're looking straight on, this hole and this hole for the bolts is behind this bracket. So even if you got the manifold to fit and you modify this a little bit, you still couldn't access the bolts because there's just not enough room. So this is just a very dumb design. I don't know if the 24 valve VR6 is the same. I know on the 12 valve VR6, because it has the split manifold, you can pull the top off no problem. And then I think you can get to the bottom bolts, but this being a one-piece top and bottom manifold, not being able to get these 2 bolts out, pulling this off is highly stupid. All right, a couple steps backwards, got all of these pieces off and out of the way. Actually kind of worked out because I forgot to put the knock sensor in and sand that spot down, so it gave me a bit more room to work this way. So that one's in, put the crank sensor in, so I guess it worked out. But now, put the manifold on first, then do all this again, and then we're just about done for the night. All right, so I went ahead and put the bracket back on by itself, just loosely real quick. I'm thinking that there's no way you'd have to pull off all of this stuff. Like if you wanted to do new cams or even just like a basic valve cover gasket, you'd have to pull off all of this stuff just to pull off your intake manifold. I can't imagine that'd be the case. So I'm gonna try and do, if you look here on the bottom of the intake manifold, there's a little nub right there and one right there that fit into that hole and that hole, just to help it line up. But I'm wondering if I cut those off and I'm able to put the manifold in closer and slide it straight down, if there'd be enough room to make this fit without pulling off all of this stuff. Because I can't imagine having to pull off the entire front of the car and your AC lines and all that stuff just to remove your valve cover. So I'm gonna try it real quick. And again, if I cut those off, it won't affect the actual gasket sealing itself. They're just like mounting little nubs. So I think, I don't know. Actually, there's a little plastic piece inside. Maybe cut that too. I don't know, we'll see. We shall see. All right, so it turns out you actually can get the manifold to go back on with the bracket here. You gotta shove it a little bit, and I'm pretty sure I scratched this bottom section. You won't ever see it, but you gotta kind of like really shove it in there, but it can be done, thankfully. Now, if you wanna take this back off, regardless of being able to fit it with the bracket on, the alternator cannot be here. There's a bolt on this side and a bolt on this side that you simply cannot get to if this is here. So if you take the belt off, pull the top section of your alternator and move that down so you can go straight in, you can remove this with only taking off your belt and the alternator. But still a bit excessive. I prefer a split manifold to remove just the top section and leave the bottom on, but it's a lot better than having to remove the entire accessory bracket, AC compressor, power steering, all of that stuff just to remove this. So you can do it. You had to scratch it up a little bit, but it does work. So my fear was if I went through and I bolted all of this up, when the time came to actually wire the engine up, if you look inside there, it's a very, very small area. To try and fit the harness through there and also plug in all 5 injectors, because like one is here, one's way up there. Like I hit my finger in there. So to have to pull all this back off just to do the wiring, I was gonna leave it all apart. But if I can put all the brackets on and then just take this off and remove this to do the wiring, that's not a big deal. I don't want to pull everything off, but just 2 things, it's doable. And I want to see the entire engine together. So I'll put all this back real quick after my little research thing I did there, and then we will continue and probably end it off there. Actually, thinking about it now, if you had a 6mm Allen key like this with that like rounded ball end that you can use at more of an angle like this versus straight on, you could probably get these bottom 2 bolts out without moving this at all. So more than likely, everything I just said is probably relevant. But hey, now you know. I still prefer a split manifold over the one-piece one, but yeah, if you have the right tools with the little ball thing and don't strip it, you probably can get to this one and then pull the entire thing out. So again, everything I just said, probably irrelevant, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, so it might be crazy to say, and I might be missing a few pieces here and there, but I think the engine portion of the Savoy build might be done. Like, I think, I know I'm missing a clutch still on a trans, but I think everything else engine-wise, like right here, is there. Like, all the sensors are on, everything, all the new pieces are on, fuel rail, injectors, everything over here. I have a brand new belt sitting right there on the floor. For this side, sensors are on, spark plugs, coil pack. I think the engine portion is done, and honestly, I am thrilled with how it looks. Now, granted, we are still missing my engine cover, which I have very, very soon, which is like the very cherry on top, which just looks so good. But as right now, I think this section of the Savoy build, and actually seeing the colors together, they actually match perfectly, which is sick. But I think this aspect of it is done. It's kind of crazy because, like, we had it apart for so long, and now to see it like like this is crazy. Little by little, boys, small progress, but we're making our way. So once the clutch shows up, get a trans on this thing, then we can set it in the car and then wait for engine harness. But we're moving along slowly but surely. We are moving right along, and it's so exciting. Like, very soon, now that we're sitting in there, we actually drive this car. Like, even when this car was running with the 1.8 it had before, I drove it for the junkyard home a few times, like locally, but like that was really it. We haven't really even driven this car hardly at all, so I cannot wait to get this in and actually like drive this car properly, like rip it around, have some fun, go to Wolfsburg, Nürburgring, all that kind of stuff. But it's cool to see all the hard work pay off. Now, I will say I have some hardware pieces left over, which I'm not entirely sure where those go. We'll figure it out. I know I deleted that piece, so that piece went right here, but now the fuel lines go from here straight back, so I don't need that anymore. Still have to figure out the coolant hose situation, but other than that, I think we have most of the things for the engine. I have to figure out all of the secondary air and all the crazy lines it has. I want to delete most of it, as long as this portion works. And then the top section, I saw a guy who has a Mark 1 swap VR5, and he deleted majority of all the crazy vacuum lines. So I'm gonna talk to him and figure out what he did, but we should hopefully have a very clean looking engine with minimal vacuum lines going around it. So yeah, the engine portion of the Savoy project is kinda almost done. A few small things here and there, but for the most part, this step of the journey is done. Now, granted, there is still so much to do in this car. The whole subframe, we have the bigger brakes to do, the shifter, all that kind of stuff. There's still plenty of work to be done, but it feels good to sit back and just look at this thing and actually see it back together, done. And honestly, it's like a massive little art piece at this point. I love the details. I could stare at this thing all day. So again, thank you guys so much for being patient with this build process and thinking about it. Now that this is like all together, we're really not too far off from actually starting the car. Now, granted, a lot has to be done with the car if we can drive it, but like to actually start the car and actually hear this thing run, we're really not too far off, which is really exciting. But with that, gonna end the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Do not forget, be thankful for every single day. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Doing just fine before I met you. I drank too much and that's an issue, but I'm okay.